we've now got a pretty solid compile script put together. So this will take our raw contract code and spit out both the ABI and the bytecode for the contract. And that bytecode can be taken and deployed to some network. Now that we've got the deployment, or excuse me, the compilation put together, we can start thinking about deployment and testing of our contract. In this video, we're going to start working on the testing aspect of our project. Remember the goal behind testing. These contracts can work with a lot of money, so we need to make sure that they are working in the way that we design them. That's the entire goal of testing a contract. So let's talk about the way in which we're going to test this thing. First, just as a quick reminder, and I know I said this just 2 seconds ago, remember we take our contract, we put it into the compiler, and we get out the ABI and the bytecode. So you might be thinking, well, at what point in time are we testing something here? Like, are we testing the actual Solidity code? Are we testing the ABI or the bytecode? Well, in reality, we get to actually write some very functional tests. And when I say functional, I mean we're going to write some tests that can directly call different functions that exist inside of our contract. So they're going to be very effective tests that you and I write. So here's our testing setup. At the very top, we've got our Solidity compiler, which is going to spit out our bytecode and our ABI. You and I are going to take this bytecode and we're going to deploy our contract to a local test Ethereum network. This local test network right here is going to be running on our own personal laptop or desktop. We're going to generate a new local network solely for the purpose of deploying and testing our contract. This really shouldn't be that crazy. If you recall, whenever we use Remix, so here's Remix right here, whenever we deploy a contract, or I should say click Create right here, that deploys a test version of our contract to the local Ethereum network that is running inside of our browser. So this is something that we've essentially already been doing by using the tool Remix. Our local test network is going to be created by a library called Ganache. You'll notice I have labeled this as both Ganache and TestRPC. So just a little history lesson very quickly. This library, this local test network that we're going to use, was previously called TestRPC. So that's the old name of this library. More recently, TestRPC was renamed as Ganache, or Ganache CLI. You will see a lot of documentation and a lot of blog posts that refer to TestRPC. So just remember, anytime you see TestRPC, that is the old name. It is now more recently called Ganache. All right, so we're going to take our bytecode from our contract and we're going to deploy it to this local test network. Then on the other side over here, we're going to take that JavaScript interface, or our ABI, and we're going to feed that into Web3. Remember, Web3 is a library that we use to get programmatic access to a deployed contract on the blockchain. So Web3 right here is kind of our portal into what is going on this local test network. We're going to be using Web3 quite a bit throughout this course, so this is going to be our first taste of it, and we'll be making use of it basically throughout the rest of the course as well. All right, so now that we've got a better idea of some of the very high-level architecture, let's pause here and continue in the next video where we're going to start the installation and setup of both Web3 and our Ganache local network. So I'll see you in just a minute.